A Very Irish Christmas by Debbie Johnson. Chapter by chapter book summary. Chapter 1. Cassie O'Hara stood in New York City, surrounded by the chaos of preparing for Christmas. She was deep inside her feelings of loneliness and dissatisfaction with life. Cassie talks about her love-hate relationship with Christmas, where she likes the decorations, music, and all the festive spirit, but, at the same time, she also struggles with the pressure and expectations that come with it. Her emotional turmoil is amplified by her recent personal struggles. She's still heartbroken over her failed marriage to Ted, whom she believed would be her forever partner. Cassie reflects on the memories of her perfect wedding day, which quickly turned disastrous when Ted left her at the altar, ruining her dreams of a happy future. This traumatic experience has caused her to retreat from meaningful relationships and to focus more on appearances than on the processing of her feelings. She has a hard time during the holiday season, as everything seems to remind her of what she has lost. As the Christmas season looms, Cassie decides to retreat to her apartment, avoiding the chaos of her family and the pressure of living up to expectations. But whereas such insulation has its limits, and given her yearning for the past never more strong for the late Nana Nora, her grandmother a sensitive moment of contact with a homeless woman in Macy's ensues. It's a reminder that somewhere in the world, some beautiful moments are still happening even though Cassie can't find a way to be a part of it. Chapter 2. Cassie spends a typical day fighting her personal demons, especially the crushing loneliness of the holiday season. She replays her memories of the wedding and the aftermath of Ted's sudden decision to leave her. She has a hard time letting go of the past, and her sadness worsens as she prepares for the holidays. These memories of a perfect relationship with Ted clash with the present reality of being alone. Cassie, in her internal world, is very much stuck within her feelings of failure and a great degree of self-doubt, which make her doubt her worth. Though trying to be strong for the world outside, she is emotionally alone. The chapter goes on to detail Cassie's relationship with her family, specifically her tense interactions with her sister Susie, who has always been critical and standoffish. Cassie feels so inadequate when comparing herself with Susie and the successful women in her life. Her relationship with her mother is equally strained because of the expectations she knows her parents hold for her. Ultimately, Cassie decides to take a break from the overwhelming pressures and retreat to her own space, hoping for a bit of peace. Chapter 3. Cassie's personal life continues to spiral as she tries to avoid facing the reality of her loneliness and lack of purpose. She struggles to find solace in the things that once brought her comfort, such as Christmas music and family traditions. Her feelings of inadequacy heighten when she overhears a conversation about her failed wedding, and she is once again reminded of her past heartbreak. Cassie's thoughts become consumed by her desire to escape her life and the painful memories that seem to follow her everywhere. The chapter also explores Cassie's unresolved grief over the death of her grandmother, Nana Nora. The loss of Nora has created a vacuum in Cassie's life, and she catches herself searching for her grandmother's wisdom and advice at every turn. Wanting to break out of the cage she has placed herself in, Cassie makes a radical decision. She starts looking into travel destinations, thinking that flying off to England or Ireland on her own might give her a fresh start. This is the beginning of her journey toward self-discovery. Chapter 4. Cassie's decision to embark on a foreign trip leads to a series of emotional breakthroughs. As she starts researching travel, she begins to feel excited for the first time in a long while. She dreams of traveling to Ireland, her grandmother's homeland, as a way to reconnect with her roots and find solace from painful memories of her former life. But then, more and more doubts begin to enter her mind about how realistic such a trip could be, and how much it would cost. Cassie is torn between the need to heal and the fear of stepping into the unknown. This chapter presents Cassie in her most vulnerable state, as she is forced to confront the reality of her situation. Her loneliness is palpable as she considers how she will spend Christmas alone, but she also recognizes that the presence of her family serves only to heighten her feelings of inadequacy. She finally summons the courage to book the trip, believing it is the only opportunity she has to gain clarity and healing. This decision is a turning point in her emotional journey as she finally opens up to the idea of change and a new life. Chapter 5. Cassie prepares for her trip to England with several mixed emotions. She feels both excited and apprehensive as the day of departure approaches. Her family is confused and concerned by this announcement, which further complicates her sense of self-worth. Susie, her sister, is unsupportive, while her mother shows genuine worry about Cassie's decision to travel alone. Despite their reactions, Cassie presses forward with her plans, determined to find herself in a new environment. The chapter highlights Cassie's emotional transformation as she boards the plane, feeling a sense of both freedom and fear. She reflects on her past choices, realizing that she has been defined by others' expectations rather than her own desires. The journey marks the beginning of her self-discovery, and she steps into the unknown with a sense of both trepidation and hope. As Cassie flies toward her destination, she starts to shed those fears that have been holding her back for so long, ready to face whatever the future may hold, perhaps even a new beginning. Chapter 6. Cassie reaches London filled with excitement and apprehension. The solo trip puts her into the busy city streets, as she feels so much charm and so much isolation being a traveler with no familiar faces in that place. She visited landmark places such as Trafalgar Square, was into it, yet the mood made her remember her lonely disposition. Cassie realizes that though there is life in the city, she feels detached, and she wants to experience these moments with someone by her side. As Cassie continues to explore the city, memories of the failed marriage with Ted surface, and she struggles with ghosts of her past. The chapter focuses on her internal struggle where, though excited at the novelty of starting over, she is still burdened by her emotional baggage. Cassie tries to move on, but the feeling of loss continues to haunt her. Yet, she will not allow her sadness to destroy her trip, and so she moves on, determined to make the most of this opportunity for self-discovery. Chapter 7. Cassie leaves London behind and heads for the countryside, arriving in the quaint village of Campton St. George. To Cassie, the village is like another world, with its picturesque streets lined with cottages. The slower pace of life in this rural setting helps Cassie unwind, and she begins to shake off some of the weight that has been bearing down on her. This isolation of the village comforts her instead of making her feel lonely, as it allows her a quiet respite from the hustle and bustle of city life. Cassie starts to think about what she will do next. She stays at a small bed and breakfast and spends her days walking through the village and taking in the beautiful scenery. In these villages, she feels a sense of warmth and community. The chapter is filled with Cassie's slowly changing mood as she begins to open up toward the idea of healing. She can be sad and yet feel a sense of peace that has long been elusive. Chapter 8. Cassie's time in the village continues to help her find some semblance of peace as she reflects on her past and the choices that brought her to this point in her life. Her thoughts go to her late grandmother, Nana Nora, whose spirit she feels is still guiding her. The love, resilience, and sense of family that Nora taught Cassie will help her resolve this emotional turmoil. Meanwhile, during her stay in this place, Cassie comes across a local guy named Ryan, who works in the local pub. He is warm, friendly, and exudes that old-world charm, comforting yet disquieting to Cassie. Their interaction is brief but one that will have a lasting effect on her. As she spends more time in the village, Cassie starts to open herself up to the possibility of new connections, though she remains cautious and hesitant. The chapter ends with Cassie feeling conflicted. She's beginning to heal, but is still unsure about her future. Chapter 9. Cassie's relationship with Ryan deepens as they continue to spend time together in the village. He invites her to the local pub for a drink, and they start talking lightly, easing Cassie into her new surroundings much better. Ryan's nature is easygoing and quite opposite to the emotional bag Cassie is carrying with her. Thus, Cassie finds herself drawn toward him in ways she hadn't expected. At the same time, Cassie is cautious and does not want to get too close to any person right after the hurtful breakup with Ted. As days wear on, Cassie starts to love the quietness of the village and a sense of belonging that she has not felt in years. Ryan is continuingly a comforting presence, though Cassie remains confused about her feelings. Teetering on the pain of her past, Cassie struggles with the idea of moving on, unsure if she is ready to let go. However, being in the village has gradually allowed her to understand her emotions, and she can almost consider the thought of opening her heart once more, but cautiously. Chapter 10. Cassie starts to settle down into village life, embracing the slowness of it and the sense of community surrounding her. The more time she spends with Ryan, the more she lets her defenses down around him. As much as Cassie would have never thought it, she was actually enjoying being with him and the semblance of normalcy in her life that it provided. Still, the guilt she feels about moving on weighs heavy on her mind, torn between a future and holding on to the memories of a failed marriage. During this chapter, Cassie's internal struggle becomes more apparent as she reflects on the choices she has made in her life. She's ready for a fresh start, but the fear of repeating past mistakes looms over her. Her emotional growth is evident, but she still faces obstacles in letting go of the pain that has defined her for so long. The chapter concludes with Cassie feeling conflicted but hopeful, ready to take the next step toward healing and embracing the possibility of new beginnings. Chapter 11. Cassie begins to feel more at ease in the village, settling into the rhythm of life there. She takes long walks through the picturesque countryside and spends more time with the locals, including Ryan. Their connection deepens, and Cassie starts to enjoy their conversations and shared moments, though she remains cautious about her growing feelings for him. The slowness of village life gives Cassie the time she needs to reflect on her past and start to understand herself a little better. The memory of Ted and the painful end of their relationship is still raw, but she's learning to process it. Cassie starts appreciating small things in her new life, the friendly chatter with locals, evenings by the fire. She starts to realize, as much as she is scared to let the past go, healing does not mean forgetting. Healing means acceptance and moving forward. The chapter focuses on internal growth in Cassie. She finds strength in the simpleness of her new surroundings. Chapter 12. Cassie and Ryan grow closer too as they spend more and more time together. She begins to open up to him about her past, sharing some of the pain she's been carrying since her wedding day. Ryan listens with compassion and offers support without judgment, which surprises Cassie. Thus, she finds herself allowing him into her heart, even though she is filled with a lot of question marks as to whether she is ready for a new relationship. She loves the time they spend together, but the ghost of her past is always lurking in the back of her mind. On one quiet evening in the pub, Cassie has an epiphany. She realizes that she's been hiding from life, allowing her heartbreak to define her. With Ryan's encouragement, Cassie starts to recognize the importance of living in the present rather than constantly looking back. Although she is not ready to fully embrace the future, she feels that she has been taking small yet significant steps toward healing. The chapter ends on a note of hope, with Cassie feeling it for the first time in years, not knowing what the future will bring but being prepared to face it. Chapter 13. Cassie finds herself caught between her past and her present, at a loss as to how to navigate the growing attraction she feels toward Ryan. She likes his company, but she's scared of making the same mistakes she did with Ted. As Christmas approaches, Cassie gets more contemplative, thinking about her family and the life she left behind in New York. She's still working through the grief of losing Nana Nora, and the holiday season brings her mixed emotions. Longing for connection, she is not so sure she's ready to open herself up again. The time in the village continues to be a soothing balm for Cassie, but she starts to feel that maybe she is not as ready to move on as she thought. Things with Ryan start to heat up, and she struggles with accepting him. He is so kind, supportive, and genuinely interested in her, but she's scared of getting hurt again. She is scared to be vulnerable, yet she knows it is the leap she must take to heal. This chapter deals with the emotional turmoil that Cassie has been reeling with, whether to progress or stand guard in her shell. Chapter 14. Cassie breaks through a barrier of thoughts about her journey of emotions. She finds it painful, but her past has to go for her to move forward. Ryan has been supportive all the way, and Cassie slowly opened herself to him, showing how afraid she was of being hurt again. Then he is reassuring and kind, so the more he does, the better she feels about embracing a possible future. A bit reluctant, Cassie trusts this new love, knowing not all loves have to be failures. As Christmas approaches, the feeling of belonging in the village begins to grow inside Cassie. The tight-knit community and the warmth of the local pub offer her a feeling of comfort and stability. She now begins to reconnect with things really important to her: respect for herself, happiness, and meaningful relationships. The chapter closes as Cassie feels cautiously optimistic about the future to come. Chapter 15. As Christmas Day draws near, Cassie reaches a breaking point in her emotional journey. She has done much to heal from her past, but she still has the battle of embracing the present. Her relationship with Ryan deepens, and they share a quiet, meaningful conversation about their pasts and their hopes for the future. Cassie is finally able to acknowledge her feelings for Ryan and realizes that she's ready to open her heart to the possibility of love again. Cassie's transformation is evident as she prepares for Christmas in the village. She feels more at peace with herself and her decisions, no longer defined by her past heartbreak. The chapter focuses on the emotional development of Cassie, who eventually learns that moving on does not mean forgetting. Rather, it means acceptance of the past, appreciation of the present, and openness toward the future. Chapter 16. She concludes this chapter, looking forward to her holiday season with a newly regained sense of hope and excitement toward whatever is to come. Cassie has now embraced her life in the village and the relationship growing between herself and Ryan. As Christmas Eve nears, she is invited into the fold of the villagers even further. The villagers' welcome and warmth toward her make this a home that New York never could. Ryan continues being a strong support, while feelings for him continue to blossom. Their bond becomes more intimate, though Cassie remains hesitant about fully letting go of her past. During the chapter, Cassie reflects on how much she's changed since arriving in the village. She's no longer consumed by the pain of her failed marriage, and she's learned to find joy in the simple pleasures of life. She participates in the Christmas preparations of the village, helping to decorate the pub and organizing a small holiday celebration. This sense of purpose gives Cassie a sense of accomplishment, and she begins to feel like she's truly starting over. Cassie has begun to realize that she no longer lives in the shadow of her past. She was beginning to open herself up to new experiences and maybe even love with Ryan. The chapter ends on a hopeful note, with Cassie excited for Christmas, eager to see what the holiday season might bring. Chapter 17. It was finally Christmas Eve, and the village was alive with festive cheer. Cassie is deeply involved in the celebrations, spending time with Ryan and the locals, who have become like family to her. She finds herself in a quiet moment of reflection, thinking about how far she's come since her arrival. Though she still misses her family, Cassie begins to understand that she doesn't need to rely on them to define her happiness. The village has given her community and a sense of belonging that she hadn't expected. Ryan and Cassie share a special moment during the Christmas Eve celebration, where their connection deepens. They talk about their pasts and their hopes for the future, and for the first time in a long while, Cassie feels truly seen and understood. Despite her lingering fears, Cassie allows herself to be vulnerable with Ryan, letting go of the walls she's built around her heart. The chapter highlights Cassie's emotional growth, as she learns to trust in the possibility of happiness again. Her relationship with Ryan is no longer just a passing connection, it has become something more meaningful, and Cassie is ready to explore what that means for her future. As they share a quiet moment together, Cassie feels a sense of peace and contentment that she hasn't experienced in years. Chapter 18. Christmas morning, Cassie wakes up warm and filled with joy, knowing that this will be a different kind of Christmas than she has ever had. The village was pure white, and the sense of festivity was in every corner. Cassie spent the day with Ryan among the villagers, joining in on every Christmas activity, filled with feelings of togetherness that seemed to hang in the air. It is a chapter filled with magic, the magic of holiday times, when Cassie is grateful for a new life she has been building. As Cassie spends more time with Ryan, she can no longer subdue her emotions but face them head-on, ready even for the next step with him, no longer afraid to be hurt. Their bond is stronger than ever, and Cassie feels more certain than ever that this is where she's meant to be. The village helped her regain the joy of Christmas and the love and connection to people. The chapter ends with Cassie and Ryan sharing a tender moment under the mistletoe. For the first time, Cassie lets go of her past and wholeheartedly embraces the future, knowing full well that this marks the beginning of a new chapter in her life. Chapter 19. The holiday period proceeds, and Cassie's relationship with Ryan is solidifying further. They can now spend more time together, taking walks in the village and simply enjoying each other's company. She finds herself getting to feel more and more at home in the village as her terrors of what might lie ahead slowly disappear. She thinks back to all that she has learned while in this village: resilience, love, and how to take a chance. As the chapter wears on, Cassie's relationship with Ryan takes a bit of a hit. While she and Ryan are getting closer, she starts to question whether they're really meant to be or if she's moving too fast. She starts to fear she's repeating some of the same mistakes from her past and pulls back to reassess her feelings. Ryan, sensing her hesitation, gives her the space she needs, and Cassie uses this time to reflect on her emotions and what she truly wants. At the end, Cassie knows that her hesitation has stemmed from fear, not a doubt in Ryan. She knows it is normal to fear getting hurt again, but this time she cannot allow the same fear to govern her future. At the close of this chapter, Cassie finally comes to a decision where she opens her heart completely toward Ryan, embracing their love and connection. Chapter 20. The most critical moment in Cassie's relationship with Ryan occurs when they finally talk and settle about their future. After her time of reflection, Cassie finally acknowledges to herself that she is ready to take the plunge and dive headfirst into this relationship. She finally realizes that love is trust and openness, and that she can let go of her fears. He assures her that he feels the same way, and they both admit that a connection as strong as theirs is worth a try. Chapter 15 means clarity of emotions for Cassie when she is not living her life in the shadow of the past but has grown to be strong enough to know exactly how to embrace her future. It is a very tender moment that Cassie and Ryan share, one that puts them right on track as a couple. As they celebrate this season together, Cassie feels full and happy for the first time in years. She's no longer the broken and lost woman, she is a woman who has been able to find love once again and do battle with whatever comes afterward. The chapter ends on Cassie, who feels content and hopeful, knowing this is just the beginning of a new chapter in her life, one full of love, happiness, and possibility. Chapter 21. Cassie's new life with Ryan blossoms as they fall into a rhythm of shared experiences. She spends more and more time in the village, helping with local events, and in the company of Ryan. They have such a comforting routine that soothes Cassie's soul, but she still has bouts of insecurity. As this chapter unfolds, Cassie has begun to confront those deeply hidden fears, the fear of not being able to hold on to the happiness that had finally found her. With Christmas celebrations underway, Cassie and Ryan take every simple, joyful moment in together. She realizes how much she's grown emotionally and admits it took strength to move on from her failed marriage. He has given her the confidence to open up her heart again with his unfailing support. But as soon as she feels safe with her new relationship, old insecurities begin to flood Cassie, especially when she looks at her life versus the perfect Christmases. Despite her doubts, Cassie is reminded that she is creating her own new tradition, one that is real and full of possibility. The chapter ends with Cassie reaffirming her commitment to Ryan, deciding that love is worth the risk even if it means being vulnerable. Chapter 22. Call from her mother creates uneasiness in Cassie, bringing a crack in the perfect bliss she has been indulging herself in. Her critical, judgmental mother questions Cassie's decision to stay on in this village and get settled with Ryan. And though that stirs old scars and painful memories of poor bonding between her and her family members, Cassie struggles for some amount of loyalty within herself versus growing feelings to chart an independent route in life for which she will have none of their judgment to carry along. Whereas this tension is brought about by the telephone call, Cassie feels stronger with the love and assurance of Ryan. They spend their night together in quietness and further in reconfirming their connections. Cassie realizes her family's opinions mean something to her, but she has grown out of being pleased by them. She gets taught how to want things from life and to listen to herself. The closer Christmas gets, the more Cassie becomes independent, taking their affair with Ryan as a mutual development of their lives. In ending, the chapter concludes on a high note as Cassie comes to make a personal choice. She will live for herself regardless of what others will say and accept her fate in moving forward with Ryan since she can create her happiness through her free will. Chapter 23. As Christmas Day draws near, Cassie feels more settled in the village than ever before. She and Ryan are still enjoying each other's company, and the Christmas celebrations in the village form a wonderful backdrop to their growing affection for each other. The turmoil in Cassie's mind about her past and her family begins to dissipate as she throws herself wholeheartedly into her present life. Her love for Ryan grows, and she starts to believe in the possibility of a future with him. The chapter is more focused on the emotional development of Cassie. She is no longer the woman who was afraid to take chances or who lived in the shadow of her failed marriage. She is sure of herself now and her relationship with Ryan. Cassie learns to appreciate the beauty of the simple, genuine life she's building and the joy of being surrounded by people who like her for herself. The chapter culminates in the most touching moment when Cassie and Ryan share their private Christmas Eve together, talking about where they have come from and what they may become. The chapter ends on a note of Cassie feeling truly at peace, ready to embrace the holiday season and all that it brings. Chapter 24. Christmas Day arrives, and the village is buzzing with festive energy. Cassie feels more connected than ever, surrounded by new friends and the warmth of Ryan's presence. She spends the day enjoying the simple pleasures of Christmas, sharing meals with the villagers, laughing with Ryan, and participating in local traditions. For the first time in a long while, Cassie finally feels a sense of belonging and joy that had eluded her in her previous life. Cassie holds on to Ryan's love and support as a strong anchor and is so grateful for his acceptance and how he has helped heal her. As they spend some quiet time together Christmas night, Cassie reflects on how her life has evolved from heartbreak in the past to peace and contentment now. She realizes that the most important thing she has gained is to love herself and to accept the love of others without fear. The chapter ends with Cassie and Ryan exchanging heartfelt words, fully acknowledging the depth of their feelings for one another. Cassie is no longer running from her past but embracing the future with hope and excitement. Chapter 25. The festive period trundles to an end, while Cassie and Ryan grow more and more together. Days blend into one as she lives under the same roof as Ryan, making her begin to visualize herself living in the village all the time with him beside her. Though the odd thought of doubt and times unsure do come, Cassie learned to trust her feelings and be grateful for the new beginning she has found in life. This chapter really focuses on Cassie's continuing emotional change. She begins to really think of her and Ryan's future, to envision their life building up together, which seems quite realistic. She reflects on how much she's changed since coming to the village, no longer identified by her past or even her family's expectations. Cassie has begun to consider herself worthy of being loved and happy, and that seems to give her confidence toward pursuing her dreams. The chapter closes with Cassie deciding to remain in the village, now realizing that this place and Ryan are where she belongs. She has found a home in both the village and in her own heart, and she is ready to fully embrace the future. Chapter 26. As the holiday season comes to a close, Cassie settles more deeply into her life with Ryan. She continues to get out into the village, deepening her friendships and enjoying the community she's become a part of. Her relationship with Ryan is in full bloom, and quiet, meaningful moments together continue to strengthen their bond. For the first time, Cassie has let go of her fears and doubts about love and is all in with Ryan. By now, this chapter opens a lead to the future beyond Cassie's holiday season. Relating what happens around her, including people who come into her life, opens her eyes not just to healing her emotional hurts but to building a future replete with love, purpose, and belonging. As she starts to envision a new life in Ireland with Ryan, the thought of returning to New York and the life she left behind is now growing distant. Content and full of joy in her heart, Cassie is ready for the next step. The chapter concludes with Cassie and Ryan in a tender embrace, looking forward to a future they can build together. Cassie finally feels at home, and for the first time in years, she feels truly happy. Chapter 27. Cassie is still enjoying village life, and her relationship with Ryan has become the centerpiece of her new life. They are happier than ever, and Cassie's confidence in herself and her future continues to grow. However, as the chapter wears on, Cassie finds a challenge in the form of Ryan's past coming into the picture. A conversation with Ryan reveals some unresolved issues from his past, and Cassie begins to question whether their relationship is truly as perfect as it seems. This is the chapter that turns everything around for Cassie as she confronts her fears of rejection and abandonment. Ryan's honesty about his past stirs up feelings of vulnerability in Cassie, but she realizes that love is not about perfection, it is about accepting each other's flaws and moving on together. As she digests this new information, Cassie comes to a realization that she is ready for whatever the future holds with Ryan, no matter how difficult it may get. The chapter ends with Cassie reaffirming her commitment to Ryan and their relationship. She knows no relationship is perfect and easy, but she's ready to take on whatever comes their way together. Chapter 28. The bittersweet moment comes when Cassie receives a call from her mother, who pressures her to come back to New York for the new year. As much as Cassie's relationship with Ryan has blossomed into something beautiful, her family's expectations continue to weigh on her. Cassie finds herself torn between the life she's building in the village and the guilt she feels toward her family, who have always expected her to follow their path. As the chapter unfolds, Cassie reflects on her past and how much she has changed since leaving New York. She no longer feels the need to be the person her family wants her to be or live up to their standards. Her time in the village and her relationship with Ryan have given her the confidence to make her own choices and live authentically. This tension between family obligations and personal happiness becomes the central theme in this chapter as Cassie struggles to choose what's best for her. In the end, Cassie follows her heart to stay in the village with Ryan, choosing to harbor happiness for herself and a future rather than bowing to family demands. This is a turning point in her journey wherein she finally settles into the skin of her new life and isn't afraid to take her path. Chapter 29. As New Year's Eve approaches, Cassie embraces her new life with Ryan, embracing him and the love and the happiness they have created together. She continually grows more comfortable in the role within the village to which she has been moved, enjoying the relationships built and the sense of community she now feels. It is a time when ghostly apparitions of her old life still haunt Cassie. She struggles to let go of the guilt over her decision to stay in the village and her distance from her family. The chapter shows Cassie's emotional coming of age as she learns to be at peace with her choices. She has come to know that not everyone will like her, and it is her happiness that matters. Through her relationship with Ryan, love and fulfillment have come from within, and she learned she deserves both. In preparation for a New Year's celebration in the village, Cassie looks toward the future with renewed hope and excitement. Cassie and Ryan celebrate New Year's Eve with the villagers, sharing a quiet, intimate moment together at midnight. As they look ahead to the coming year, Cassie feels a deep sense of gratitude for the journey that brought her here and the love she's found in Ryan. Love and second chances. The theme of love is explored not just through Cassie's relationship with Ryan, but also through her personal understanding of what love means. Cassie's initial fear of love, rooted in her failed engagement, gives way to the idea that love is not just about finding the perfect person, but about vulnerability, trust, and acceptance. Through Ryan's patience and kindness, Cassie learns that love can be a healing force, and that it's possible to experience love again even after heartache. This theme is particularly important as Cassie learns to open her heart again and embrace a second chance at love. Overcoming the past. The novel strongly focuses on Cassie's struggle to move past her heartbreak and embrace the future. Much of the story revolves around her emotional conflict, how to reconcile her past pain with the hope for a better future. Cassie's journey demonstrates that while the past cannot be erased, it can be accepted, and that true healing comes from learning to let go and not letting the past define one's present and future. The village and her time there serve as a backdrop for Cassie's ability to create new memories that help her move forward. Personal empowerment and independence. Throughout the book, Cassie's growth into a confident, independent woman is a central theme. She begins by relying on her family's expectations and living a life according to others' standards. However, through her experiences in the village, she gains the confidence to make her own choices and live for herself. The theme of personal empowerment is reflected in her decision to stay in the village, pursue a relationship with Ryan, and ultimately build a life where her happiness comes from within, not from fulfilling external expectations. The importance of community. As Cassie learns to heal, one of the most significant factors is the sense of community she finds in the small Irish village. The supportive environment, filled with kind-hearted villagers who embrace her as one of their own, gives her the confidence to embrace her new life. The theme of community is explored through Cassie's interactions with the villagers, who provide her with the love and support she needs to move forward. The village becomes a place of refuge and a symbol of how belonging to a caring, close-knit community can help heal emotional wounds. Christmas as a time for reflection and renewal. Christmas in the book is not just a festive backdrop but a symbolic time of reflection and renewal for Cassie. As she experiences the season in the village, it provides her the space to reflect on her journey and her emotional transformation. The holiday season, filled with traditions and togetherness, serves as a catalyst for Cassie's personal growth. The themes of hope, new beginnings, and the importance of family, both biological and chosen, are reflected through the Christmas celebrations in the village. Family dynamics and reconciliation. The book also explores the complicated dynamics of family, particularly between Cassie and her family. While her family loves her, their expectations and judgment weigh heavily on her, adding to her emotional burden. As Cassie matures and grows into her new life, she realizes that she doesn't have to live up to their expectations to be worthy of love and happiness. The theme of reconciliation is explored as Cassie learns to accept her family for who they are while also establishing boundaries that protect her own well-being and happiness. Symbols. Irish traditions and symbolism. The village of Campton St. George, where Cassie spends most of her time, is depicted as a traditional, tight-knit Irish community. The setting itself becomes symbolic of warmth, acceptance, and renewal. It contrasts with Cassie's previous life in New York, emphasizing how the Irish countryside and community offer Cassie a place of solace and personal growth. The local pub, where Cassie and Ryan spend a lot of their time, is a common symbol in Irish culture. In many Irish novels, the pub represents a place of camaraderie, refuge, and community bonding. The pub in this book serves as a gathering place where Cassie begins to integrate into the community, meet new people, and share in the spirit of the village. The warm hospitality of the villagers, especially as Cassie is welcomed into their celebrations, is an important cultural element. The Irish are famously known for their friendliness and hospitality, and this theme is highlighted through the welcoming nature of the characters who embrace Cassie despite her initial sense of being an outsider. Christmas plays a significant symbolic role, with traditional Irish Christmas customs woven into the narrative, such as the festive decorations, caroling, and Christmas dinner. The Christmas season itself is used symbolically as a time for new beginnings and for healing emotional wounds. Irish proverbs and sayings. Throughout the book, there are references to Irish proverbs and sayings, many of which are used to impart wisdom and humor. For example, one of the first quotes in the book is an Irish proverb: "May you have the hindsight to know where you've been, the foresight to know where you are going, and the insight to know when you have gone too far." These proverbs not only provide insight into the characters' personalities but also reflect Irish culture, which often embraces wit and wisdom passed down through generations. Another cultural pun might be found in the playful use of Irish expressions like "what's the craik," meaning what's going on, or "Egypt," a playful way of calling someone a fool. These phrases add humor and authenticity to the Irish setting, making the dialogue feel more rooted in the culture. Irish humor and wordplay. Egypt. This is a humorous and affectionate Irish term for an idiot or a fool, used frequently in the book. Cassie encounters this term several times, especially when Ryan refers to the dog Egypt. The playful use of this term creates a light-hearted tone and reinforces the village's quirky charm. The book humorously plays on some common Irish stereotypes, such as the obsession with tea, the importance of the weather in daily conversations, and the Irish love for Guinness. For example, Ryan's comment that the weather, you'll need to talk about that, a lot is a nod to the Irish habit of discussing the ever-changing weather as a social norm. Ryan's character plays with the stereotype of the charming, rugged Irish man with a quick wit. His flirtations with Cassie are filled with playful banter and teasing, often using classic Irish humor to diffuse tension and add lightness to the romantic moments. Irish food and drink. As part of the Irish cultural setting, the characters often drink Guinness or whiskey, which is a common symbol of Irish hospitality. These drinks also represent the deep-rooted social traditions that are part of the Irish pub experience. There are mentions of Irish food, such as hearty stews, potatoes, and pies. These foods symbolize the comfort and warmth of traditional Irish hospitality and provide a cultural touchstone that further immerses readers in the village setting. The Christmas tree. The Christmas tree is symbolic in many cultures, and in this story, it represents the new life and fresh start that Cassie is embarking on. The village's Christmas tree, decorated and surrounded by lights, serves as a symbol of hope, renewal, and community spirit. It becomes a beacon of change and the possibility of new beginnings for Cassie, standing in contrast to her painful memories of Christmases past.